Hi everyone. Good morning. We are finishing up our study of Birkat Hamazon. Let's provide let's say our bracha, our morning blessing about this, and we'll go into a little bit of some of the stuff that we passed over in the learning about Birkat Hamazon. Okay, here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Is it visible for you folks? Probably too small a font, but can you see? I'm hearing no objection, so I'm thinking that you can see it. Good enough for me. Okay, so the big difference, so we made our way through the entire Birkat Hamazon, except for the fact that there is a component of this which is different on weekdays. The big difference is the very beginning, and I thought we would look at the psalm that is recited at the beginning. You'll remember that we have, that the source of this particular sheet that I'm using is work that I did when I was a Hillel director. And in that capacity, I put together a sheet that was then kind of made its way around the country. And before the days of Sefaria in particular, this was seen as a resource that people were asking permission to put into their books, that they were teaching people about Birkat Hamazon, and they just saw it as, it's still out there, but I've made a lot of changes and I'll continue to fix this in every which way I can. But this passage, we'll remember, talks about the beauty of Shabbat as an introductory piece for Birkat Hamazon, and sort of speaks of Shabbat as a taste of the world to come. It's sort of the dream of everything being worked out, that the Mashiach, the Messianic era had arrived and the temple had been rebuilt. So on Shabbat, for Birkat Hamazon, we pretend as if the temple was already built, and that's why we have this song of ascents. I have it as song of steps. I probably should just do that. Call it a song of steps / ascent, because steps are to elevate, to go up, and the word ma'alot is the idea of ascending. It has the word aliyah in it. And so what we're saying is that we're going up. We're ascending. We're going to higher, as one band, the Moshav band says, higher and higher and higher and higher. It just keeps going higher and higher. That we're trying to reach an elevated mindset. But that's for Shabbat. What I'm going to share, if I can pull it up really quickly, hang on a second. Let me just, as I'm doing this, I invite you to, if you have any questions or comments, to add them now. Anything that is still unclear about this, as I pull up the other source. This is the audience participation section of the class, everybody. I guess not. Well, that's too bad. I'm going to, so that's Psalm 126, and now I'm going to go to Psalm 137. By contrast, we're going to see a very different energy for weekday. And that is that instead of Psalm 126 to introduce us, we recite Psalm 137, which you know this passage because it was made into a pop song. Al Naharot Bavel, Sham Yashavnu, Gam Bachinu Bizochrenu et Zion. By the waters of Babylon, or by the rivers of Bavel, there we sat and there we cried. in our memory of Zion. Very different approach than Psalm 126. We have Birkat Hamazon starting with a reminder that we are in Galus, as they might say. We are in diaspora. We are in the furthest most west when our heart is in the east, to quote Yehuda Halevi. We start with a reminder of all the work that we're doing to bring back this perfection, this utopia, this messianic era, that we're trying to return to the Garden of Eden. And in our attempts to do so, we have to acknowledge what is sort of the opposite of the Garden of Eden, namely the way in which our society is very much in a bad place. It's interesting in light of how some people feel that criticism of what's happening in the world is somehow unpatriotic, and that has led to the opposite perspective than the Jewish perspective, because as Jews we acknowledge what is not working. And for Birkat Hamazon, we start that off by saying, by the waters of Babylon we laid down and wept for thee, Zion, as Don McLean sang. Al Aravim betocha talinu kinorotenu. On the willows within it, within it being the waters, we hung our harps, our lyres, our instruments, the kinneret, which is my daughter's name. We hung why did we hang them? Because they were not to be used anymore. The kinnor is a symbol of use in the temple of instruments. The kinnor was an instrument used in the Beit HaMikdash. Oh, I need to turn off my coffee real quick. Okay. And so we hung up our lyres because there was no temple left, so the Levites had no place to play. So it's an expression of sadness. Everybody following? Kisham she'elunu shovenu divrei shir. Because there, our she'elu, which they translate as captors. Let's see how they translate it. Let's see. Looking at words. Oh, well, yes. Definitely one who inquires, one who asks a she'elah. Oh, I'm sorry. Because they're shovenu, our captors. Yes, shovenus, those who held us, essentially. Pidyon Shavuim is the redemption of the captives. So Shovenu are our captors, because there our captors asked us for words of song, v'tolalenu simcha, and essentially, as it says here, for joy. They wanted to have joy here, but it is a little bit confusing why tolalenu. Our tormentors' joy, but for some reason they say this is joy. This is uncertain Hebrew, but it seems pretty clear. Our tormentors, our plunderers, the people who destroyed us, wanted to be happy. So out of their sense of joy, they taunt us. Shiru lanu mishir Tzion. Sing for us from the songs of Zion. It reminds me of when the Nazis wanted to create a museum to an extinguished race to show off all of the wares of the Jewish people, what's become known as the Precious Legacy exhibit. In the same way here, the Babylonian tormentors wanted us to do a song and dance. It also brings back echoes of some of the barbaric things that people would do when they would capture lands, like they would take an indigenous person and put them on display in Europe for everyone to see them in a cage, right? And that was a thing where they would take people who were clearly of a different racial background and put them on display as wild animals. It's the same kind of idea here of triumphalism. Like, oh, we want to hear how this weird religion is, or we want to hear, how this destroyed people that we conquered. What is it that we conquered? It's toying with it, and as a sort of the Orientalism, the idea of just like, oh, they're so dainty, they're so cute, but it's an entire people that are being tormented. And that's what Psalm 137 highlights. And of course, the response to that is, Eich nashir et shir Hashem al admat nechar. How will we sing a song of God on foreign lands? Or foreign land, on the land of the alien. Nechar is, nochri is really foreigner or alien or somehow, however we can describe something completely alien to who we are. They're stuck in the far recesses of Bavel. Remember, after the temple was destroyed, which is what this is describing, that period after 586 BCE, our people were scattered, they were killed, they were massacred, but they were also sent off to Bavel to be slaves for the people there, and just in general created into a diaspora community. And so, how will we sing a song of God on this utterly foreign land? And then this famous line that we hear from time to time in various settings, Im eshkachech Yerushalayim, tishkach yamini. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, may my right hand lose its cunning. And they translate it as, may my right hand wither. But it literally is, may my right forget. If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right, Yemini, the part of me that is on the right, forget. Forget its cunning. So they say basically, may my right hand forget ... Implicit is, may it just lose its function. Tibak, and then it continues. Tibak lishoni lechiki. May my tongue cleave to my mouth, basically to my palate, to the, may it get stuck to my. May I develop a lisp, perhaps. May I lose my capacity to speak in a normal way. Im lo eskareni, if I forget thee. No, I'm sorry. If I do not remember you, if I do not remember thee. They have it as think, because to remember is to mention, is to think. It's all interconnected. It's the way in which the word zecher, which means memory, and zachar, which means male, are linked. It's a very interesting word, worthy of discussion unto itself. But we don't have time for that right now. May my tongue stick to its palate, to my palate, if I do not remember you. Im lo a'aleh et Yerushalayim, if I do not al rosh simchati, if I do not lift up Jerusalem or go up to Jerusalem, literally, al rosh simchati, at my happy, at times when I am happy, basically, simcha. So this is, again, we pretend like Zionism is only a 20th century idea that has taken hold because that's what we're being told over and over again by anti-Zionists. Sure, maybe as a political force it wasn't there, but how ludicrous is it to dismiss this type of yearning that is liturgically a part of the Jewish people for centuries and has been used even liturgically. In other words, it's not just in our Bible, but has been used in various parts of our prayer experience for a very long time. It would be interesting to know when Birkat Hamazon first had Psalm 137 in it, but I would reckon it was pretty early, way before the 1880s when Herzl was just getting going. So if this is not a proto-Zionist text, I don't know what is. It certainly is a yearning for Zion. It even says Zion. It says it twice in this. In the first line and in the third line. Mishir Tzion. Bizochrenu et Tzion. Okay? And it keeps going. So we got all of this about remembering Jerusalem. Zechor Adonai livnei Edom et Yom Yerushalayim ha'omrim Aru Aru od hayasod ba. Remember Adonai against the children of Edom the day of Jerusalem, when they would say, rise up, rise up. Oh, actually, they have it as Aru, Aru, as stripper, stripper. That's interesting. Lo'orer is to be aroused. But I guess it's also to be naked. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Oh, it's a different shorish. It's a different root. Okay, sorry about that. Stripper. So here's another reminder of a taunting of the Edomites when they rose up against Jerusalem and said, strip, oh strip, od hayasod, until the foundations are in it. So basically pillage and destroy. So it's a very negative moment. You'd say, why is this in our liturgy? Because we have to remember the pain so that we know what we are seeking out. Again, this is during the weekday. Every excuse we can have to not say this psalm with Birkat Hamazon, we don't. But when it's a weekday, what is the purpose of our work in this world? The rabbis, the tradition would say, to bring about Mashiach, to bring about that perfect era once and for all, to replace this world that we're in right now. You might think of it as returning us to the Garden of Eden state. Ever since the destruction that happened when they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, ever since then we've been trying to get, as they say, as Joni Mitchell said, back to the garden. Bat Bavel Hashduda Ashrei Sheyishalem Lach. Daughter of Bavel, you predator. Right. Hashduda, the one who has been devastated. The devastating, destructive Bavel. Ashrei Sheyishalem Lach. Happy is the one who will repay you. In other words, revenge, right? Ekmulech shegamalt lanu. For your bestowal which you bestowed upon us. In other words, for the things that you did, we are going to revenge. We are going to avenge your violence. May it happen. Happy is the one who will avenge the Babylonians. It's a little violent. And then the last line. Ashrei she yochez v'nipetz et olalayich el hasala. This is really tough. Happy is the one who grabs and dashes and will dash our descendants or your descendants upon the rock. Happy is the one who grabs the ones who dashed your children against the rocks. Everybody understand that? So it is not a happy psalm. This is not happiness. But
Rabbi,
but
in
yeah,
in my book of Psalms for Robert Alta, on number 8, it says, "Daughter of Babylon, the despoiler, happy who pays you back in kind for what you did to us."
correct.
I didn't know what daughter of Babylon because the other one didn't have that.
So it says Bat Bavel. You're talking about verse 8, right?
8.
Yes. Bat Bavel, daughter of Babylon. They translated it as fair Babylon, but it really is literally daughter of Babylon, but it also could be child of Babylon.
Okay.
So, what do you think about this psalm? I mean, what does it feel like to recite such an intensely, if you ask me, angry psalm? I'd like to get your thoughts on this. We have to talk more about these things, and I'd love some disagreements, and I'd love some, but constructive disagreement, thoughtful, counterpoints. I will say that not everyone reads this psalm because it is pretty painful. They like the first part, but then they don't like the last part because it's just so, it has echoes of the Book of Lamentations. It's children that are being killed.
Well, and I think we use that psalm during Tisha B'Av. That's one of the psalms that's recited.
For sure.
Hmm. Well, it's certainly, if it says after your meal, it doesn't really seem like it's setting yourself up for good digestion.
Right. So maybe if you were among the rabbis of the board of rabbis of Reform Judaism in the earliest days of determining what should or shouldn't be included, you might exclude this psalm from the liturgy.
Right. And I'm just wondering, because I know that there are shortcut versions for during the week or even on Shabbat, but especially during the week when you don't have a time to do a long prayer. And I don't know, is this psalm included in the shorter version?
No, let's take a look at that actually. I actually can pull it up very easily because it's on my Birkat Hamazon sheet. Um, Here we go. Tell me when you can see it.
Now we can.
Okay. At the very end of this sheet, 4-page version, yeah. Um, Short on time, try this. It's just a one-liner. Brich Rachmana Malka de Alma Mare de Hai Pita. Someone put it to music, I can't remember who. But it says, "Blessed is the compassionate one, King of the universe, the master of this pita." See the word pita?
Hmm.
Now you know. Pita is really an Aramaic word. Pat lechem. This slice is probably a better translation. And look at what I put in here. Here's the short version. Benjamin the shepherd made a sandwich and said, "Blessed is the merciful one, ruler of the universe, master of this bread." Rav said that he had performed his obligation when he said these words. I'm going to capitalize this. It seems like it's done. And here's the original source, Brachot 40b. Regarding blessings that do not conform to the formula instituted by the sages, the Gemara relates that Benjamin the shepherd ate bread and afterward recited in Aramaic. In Aramaic, that's important to recognize. "Blessed is the master of this bread." Rav said he thereby fulfilled his obligation to recite a blessing. The Gemara objects, though. But didn't Rav say any blessing that does not contain mention of God's name is not considered a blessing? The Gemara amends the formula of his blessing. He said, blessed is the all-merciful. So here, the original is simply, blessed is the master of this bread, which would be barich. Here, I'll highlight the words. The master of this bread. So then it gets modified with the addition of the word Rahmana, the merciful one. So that was how you get God's name in there. So anyway, what's really valuable here is it says, my kamashmalan, af al gav de amara bilshon chol. What is he teaching us? And we can go over what this is. The teacher, it's teaching that even though he said it in the language of chol, in a secular language. In other words, you can recite Birkat Hamazon in English, and it holds. And that's what the Shulchan Aruch then points out. It goes into, let's see if I can find it. Oh yeah, I need to fix this. Maybe I don't have it here. I was doing the translations here, and I maybe I didn't include the part about language, but it can be done in any language. So here's the core of it as it comes down. So that was the Talmud. Then in the Shulchan Aruch, it explains the 4 subsections that we went over. And just, I'll close with this because I think we're moving away from the core of the class. This is from the Shulchan Aruch. You'll see that there's a text, and then in some parts, I don't know how well it comes out, it's in blue, and it starts with the word Haggah, which means something like Haggah or Haggah v'divrei harosh. It is surmised, and then there's additional words. These are additions that were provided by an Ashkenazic rabbi, Rabbi Moshe Isserlis, also known as the Rima. So what happens is the Shulchan Aruch, which was written by Yosef Karo for a Sephardic audience, then becomes transformed into, with these additions, into a book that works within the context of Ashkenazic Jews. And so, because minhag changes in different regions, from one region to another, they needed to find a way to create one code of law that would include both Sephardic and Ashkenazic customs, and that's what the Shulchan Aruch with the words of the Rima presents. So, this is it. And I have a couple of sources here. I actually contacted, when I saw this text on Sefaria, I contacted them and told them they have errors, and they fixed them. So I can now fix this. And this should be a bet. I'll just steal the bet from here. Okay. Any last comments or questions?
Well, I like the short version because, in modern life, we don't have time to do the full-blown Birkat Hamazon, and I didn't realize that there was an alternative.
Yes, there is. It's a fun little alternative, and it's, I know there's a melody for it. I mean, it's so short, and it has a lot of ah sounds in it, so maybe I should write my own Birkat Hamazon chant, It's almost
Well,
like you could say it 100 times very easily.
it's like saying the blessing before you have to really get into a routine of remembering to do it. And this makes it easy to remember to say a blessing when it's nice and short.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. I might add this to that one-liner that comes from the Torah that says "Kakatu ve'achalta v'salvata uverachta," because that passage is the basis for Birkat Hamazon. So it could be almost like a Hineni Muchanum Zuman. It could be an introduction to the prayer, and then say, what is it? Rahmana. I can't remember. What is the text? Brich Rachmana Malka da Alma Mare da Hai Pita. The only thing about it that's a little bit off is it says master of this bread. It sounds like a pre-eating blessing because it talks about this bread, but you just ate the bread. So there's that too. All right, everyone. I think we are done. I mean, we could go and find little bits that we haven't discussed about the Birkat Hamazon, like, for instance, the Rosh Chodesh editions and whatnot, but they're not really that special. We got all of the special content in. And I think it's time for us to move to another topic. So on the Torah thread, feel free to post in WhatsApp your thoughts on what we should turn our attention to. I know some ideas have come up, and of course right now they all escape me. But rather than discussing it here, put it in writing and then we'll figure out what comes next, okay?
Well, good timing because we don't have class next week.
That's true. We are going to have the ultimate class. It's going to be
Yeah.
Rosh Hashanah, so that's good. All right.
All right. Thank you,
So
Rabbi.
just in
Rabbi.
time for our Yom Kippur fast also. Birkat
Yes.
Hamazon. Okay.
Have a
All
good
right.
day. Sorry.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.